The term mindfulness has been translated from the Pali term Satipatthāna in the Pali-English dictionary published in 1882 by the British scholar Dr. Rhys Davids after he travelled to Sri Lanka and studied the words of the Buddha. Dr. Davids visited Sri Lanka when the country was under British colony. Due to the lack of accurate translation, the real message of the Buddha has not been conveyed to those who know the original teachings of the Buddha, which is in Pali language. Thus, the real teaching of the Buddha is missing. Although Dr. Davids deserves full credit on his excellent work of bringing the concept of mindfulness to the West, the time has now come to reveal clarity of the true mindfulness. Pali term Satipatthāna is actually composed of three words: sati, yupa, and thana. Sati means attention, awareness, alertness, earnestness, heartfulness, diligence, vigilance. Yupa means inside or near. Thana means to place, to establish. When analysing the three parts of this combined word, it seems that Satipatthāna is actually closer to the term introspection, rather than mindfulness. Therefore, the Buddha was trying to promote bringing attention within us, rather than focusing or projecting our reaction on the external stimuli. Additionally, as Buddha explained, the body and mind are not two different entities, but a psychosomatic existence of activities. Even though we can see the body as an entity, the rapidity of the mind is quite immeasurable. That is why it is called the fastest energy in the world. The Buddha once said, even giving a simile to show the rapidity of this mind is quite impossible. Let's use the example of the human organism. As humans, our body is functioning as a machine filled with different activities. These activities are a product from the reaction of our senses being stimulated by the environment. Specifically, the activity of hearing happens when our ear perception is stimulated by a sound from the environment. When we hear something, it provokes a reaction in our body. As per Buddha's teaching, the task of the mind is understanding this reaction. To pinpoint this reaction, we must analyze the brain, which has two main activities. One is through the cerebral cortex, which pertains to our thinking. The other is through the limbic system, which pertains to our emotions. When the Buddha spoke about the mind, he referred to three parts: Wenona, perceptual aspect of the mind; Mono, intellectual aspect of the mind; Chitta, emotional aspect of the mind. Perception refers to our six senses: eye perception, ear perception, nose perception, tongue perception, body perception, and mind perception. After perception comes the thinking part, or the intellect. We all have wisdom as an innate quality because we have intellectual part of mind. The Buddha called this mono, while Sigmund Freud called it ego. For example, when we get angry, it begins with one of our senses intaking something unpleasant. This is the perceptual part. Then, our body interprets the sensory input as a feeling of anger towards the unpleasant factor. This is the intellectual part. Finally, this message is taken to our adrenal glands, where adrenaline hormones are released and thus produce the feeling of anger. This is the emotional part. Buddha referred to this emotional arousal as chitta, and Freud called it id. In this example, if the feeling of anger is not released, tension will remain in the body. We call this tension stress. To remove stress, we must practice conscious relaxation, which is the Satipatthāna, or true mindfulness. Conscious relaxation promotes awareness of what is happening in the body and using that awareness to control any feelings that may arise.
In 2021, Dr. Haywawasam conducted a 3-month mindfulness research study with 22 participants. These participants were leaders of various organizations, including Fortune 100 and 500 companies. Dr. Haywawasam also invited 4 Buddhist monks to lead the mindfulness practices that aim to decrease stress and promote introspection in each of the participants. Although Buddhist monks were involved in the study, Dr. Haywawasam research was entirely separate from the religious aspect of Buddhism. The emphasis was on meditation practices and the original form of Satipatthāna. To gain results, he followed an action research methodology and asked each participant to keep a journal reflecting their newfound ideas and realizations. He also conducted personal interviews with each participant.
Through Dr. Haywawasam research findings, he came up with 157 first-order themes and 16 second-order themes. Dr. Haywawasam also found 4 aggregate dimensions, which serve as the basis of his results. The 4 dimensions are sense of values, deeper capacity for empathy, value-driven behavioral change, greater capacity for introspection. Each of these 4 dimensions connects with a step from the supernormal Eightfold Way, or known as Noble Eightfold Path, which is an 8-step path to achieving proper mindfulness in Buddhist teaching.